Today's lesson is on angles. This is section 1-4 in your textbook. The essential question for this section is going to be, how do you name angles and find their measures? So what exactly is an angle? An angle is the figure formed by two rays that have the same endpoint. So here we have an angle. The two rays, BA and BC, are called the sides of the angle, and their common endpoint, B, is referred to as the vertex of the angle. Now, there are several ways we can identify this angle. We can refer to it as angle B, angle ABC, angle CBA, or simply angle 1, because notice 1 is in the inside of the angle. Now, please note that if you're using three letters, the middle letter always has to be the vertex. So we can go ABC or CBA, but B always has to be the middle letter if you were using three letters. Now, one thing to be really careful about, however, is if you are using a single letter. Now, notice what's happened to the picture. Angle B, you don't know which angle you're referring to. So, to be on the safe side, a lot of times it's always better to use three letters and then there's no question as to which angle you're referring to. So only use a single letter when it's obvious which angle you're referring to. Now, if you want to measure an angle, you can use a protractor to find the measure in degrees of an angle. And you can look in the book, and I will also discuss a little bit in class as to how you go about using a protractor. Now, angles are classified according to their measures. First, there is an acute angle. This is an angle that measures between 0 and 90 degrees. Next, there is a right angle. This is an angle that measures exactly 90 degrees. Next, there is the obtuse angle. This is an angle that measures between 90 and 180 degrees. And lastly, there is the straight angle. This measures exactly 180 degrees. We now have a couple of postulates relating to angles. The first of these is postulate 3, the protractor postulate. Now listen carefully. On line AB in a given plane, choose any point O between A and B. Consider ray OA, and ray OB and all the rays that can be drawn from O on one side of line AB. These rays can be paired with the real numbers from 0 to 180 in such a way that A, ray OA is paired with 0 and ray OB is paired with 180. B, if ray OP is paired with X and ray OQ is with Y, then the measure of angle POQ was equal the absolute value of X minus Y. There's a lot of words here, and I don't expect you to learn this verbatim. Bottom line is, you can measure an angle. That's basically what this postulate says. You can measure an angle in degrees. Next, we have postulate 4, which is the angle addition postulate. This one's a little less wordy and easier to understand than the last. If point B lies in the interior of angle AOC, then the measure of angle AOB plus the measure of angle BOC is equal to the measure of angle AOC. And this can be seen clearly in the following diagram. So, with the diagram, you can clearly see that the measure of angle AOB plus the measure of angle BOC is equal to the measure of angle AOC. So now we're going to have a few definitions. The first of these is congruent angles. These are angles that have equal measures. So congruent angles are angles that have equal measures. Next, we have adjacent angles. These are two angles in a plane that have a common vertex and a common side, but no common interior points. Now, there's a little bit of confusion here as to what are and are not adjacent angles. So let me go to the next page and I'm going to show you examples of what is an adjacent angle and what is not an adjacent angle. First of all, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent angles. Okay, they follow all the parts of the definition. They have a common vertex, and they have a common side, but no common interior points. Now, angles 3 and 4, however, are not adjacent. They do have a common vertex and a common side, but notice how they overlap, and as a result, you cannot refer to them as adjacent angles. Finally, we have bisector of an angle. This is the ray that divides the angle into two congruent adjacent angles. So bisector of an angle is the ray that divides the angle into two congruent adjacent angles. Now this concludes this particular lesson. Now I would like you to do classroom exercises numbers 1 through number 6 on page 20 of your textbook and post your answers in the Dropbox.